Time-saving appliances in the 1970s, and those commodities that gave us entertainment for our pleasure in our leisure. I'm talking about TVs, white goods, games or interactive toys and all that. Yesterday's luxuries are today's essentials, but what was the cost back then? In my previous videos I have talked in the past of how prices have changed over the last 50 years in social history. My videos have shown some shocking increases, with inflation being much higher on some items than on others. Let's this time go back to the 1970s, and I'm going to choose 1973. A look at the prices of technology from then and compare them to today. This has surprises, but not the shocks that you'd expect. Just before we find out, it's worth noting that some items are defunct today and are not sold on the new retail market. This will be covered by second-hand prices from auction sites, just to give a balance of the average cost today. Technology also comes in levels of quality and grades, so I'll do my best to do like-for-like items. Enough waffling, let's get on with it. An automatic washing machine in 1973 would be around £106.94. Much more expensive than twin tubs because they were more popular back then. This would inflate to just under £1,000 today. However, we all know washing machines vary from a basic to a fancy fandangled one. So what I've done is I've looked at a basic machine, say by Hoover, and that price today to buy is £279. Told you there would be some surprises. But let's look at the average wage before we go any further. And I know this varies greatly, so let's take the wage in 1973 according to the Bank of England. The average weekly wage in 1973 was £42. Today, that would be £733. Women workers back then were unfairly paid, so they got paid a lot less. Now this is just an average, and I know that some earned and still earn far less than those figures. Moving on. The portable cassette recorder. Weren't they great? Taping off the radio as we called it, and being told off by DJs, as it was illegal to record from the radio. But we did. We recorded the top 40 rundown from the wireless, and we had to avoid the Tony Blackburns of this world talking through the last few bars of the song, not to mention trying to keep the people in the house quiet as to not ruin your production. Very frustrating. I can remember trying neatly to write all the titles on those small index cards that you got in your C60s or your C90 blank tapes. The cost. I know this one. My uncle bought one in 1973 and it cost him £16.99. By 1978, my first recorder was £11.99, so the price had already dropped by then. Now, looking at that £16.99 price in 73, that would inflate to an average of £185 today in 2025. I have looked at the average price of a new cassette recorder, and yes, you can still buy them, and it's got Bluetooth. Eh? The price is £34. I like the sound of that. We loved record players back then, and many afforded just a record player as opposed to those music centres with radio and tape recorders. I've just remembered something. I remember my brother-in-law buying a music centre in 1973, and it cost him £150. It had the record player, radio and an 8-track player on it. Back to record players only. I managed to find a Pi stereo record player priced in a catalogue for £29.90 back in 73. That money inflates to around £328 today. I was also surprised that even back then you could pay a good few £100s for high-end players. Today you can get a player with separate speakers new for about £80. Built-in speakers are a lower quality and they average at £35. I'm just glad you can still buy them. and they have Bluetooth too. Most of us in the 70s rented our television sets, and it's understandable why, as the cost of a colour set with a 28-inch screen in 1973 was out the reach of many pay packets. Let's see. The sale price then was £230, and this inflates to just over £1,000 today, £1,000. Looking in the Argos catalogue in 2025, they do a 27-inch screen for £139 for a decent one, and the 32-inch screen is exactly the same price. But it has to be said that older TV sets could be repaired as opposed to new ones that end up in landfill due to not being worth the price of repair or with technology moving on so rapidly. We had a TV that we had to make last, and it stayed fashionable for much longer. Our family rented our TV, and we got our TV changed or repaired as part of the rental price. Incidentally, rental is still available today with Box Clever. It's beginning to look like that technology has dropped in price and has become much more affordable today. Here's why. Firstly, the research and development costs for new technologies have to be paid for. So for many new items that go onto the market, a massive investment has already been made without the companies selling a single item. The high price for that item, such as that TV game or early computer set, is basically to get all that money back. When that's done, the price drops. Secondly, in the 70s, manufacturing costs were much higher without robotic or automated intervention. Hence, more staff were required to produce the product, plus components were higher priced before integrated circuits. Most were not mass-produced in slave factories, if I can be forgiven for saying that word. And finally, there's that high demand for new equipment or games, called the Veblen effect. That's if I pronounced it right. The more people that want the item, according to the manufacturers, the more they will pay. I would like to reverse that comment to say, the more people that want the item, the more companies demand. It's also worth mentioning that items were better made years ago, built to last, with a less rapid movement in upgrades and the latest new models. The next item, the fridge freezer. Now this was a luxury item in the 70s. We didn't get a fridge in our house until the late 70s. We kept our food fresh in the larder or the pantry. Many homes had a pantry with a slab of concrete as a shelf. That was a cold store. Butter, milk and even meat was kept on it. We shopped more often for fresh food and we stored less. However, looking at fridge freezers that were coming onto the market, I found an Indeset freezer that was advertised in a newspaper in 1975, a couple of years later. It was £109. Today that inflates to £851. Another shocker. The average price of the same style freezer today is £279, probably slightly bigger, I'd imagine. Most of us back then had little fridges with a tiny freezer compartment, just enough space for a frozen bag of peas and a box of fish fingers. The company B-Jam was the first major UK frozen food retailer, which encouraged families to invest in larger freezers in order to take advantage of their discounted and bulk-saving food offers. Next up is the pocket calculator, which came into the UK in the early 70s. The Sinclair executive in 1972 made the calculator small enough to use straight from your briefcase and place into your coat pocket, thanks to the microprocessor and solid-state technology. By 1975, more models were on the market which had an LED display, with Casio being the most memorable. So let's have a look at the price of this modern movement in mathematics and do our own workings out. The Casio calculator in 1973 was around £35. Now that's a massive drop from 1972, the previous year, with the Sinclair executive being £79. That's a massive drop just for 1 year. However, I have honestly seen today a cheap and effective LCD calculator on an outdoor market for as little as £1. That's unbelievable. Over £300 in today's prices for that Casio in 73, now £1. To be honest, the average price of a calculator to buy new, which is a Casio Scientific one, is around a tenner. Okay, we have to jump forward to 1976, so this 1973 business isn't kind of working out, but 1976 is the year that we find the introduction of the VHS, Video Home System, the video recorder. Previously, other sets had been around, but this was the recorder that was the start of mass production of video players and recorders to set the trend of having a choice of what the viewer wanted to watch and when they wanted to watch it. Now, due to the massive price of owning this machine, it was a slow rollout in the UK. Many didn't get one until the 1980s, and most of those were rented. Invented by JVC as a top loader with the piano-type keys for its functions, many remember this always going wrong, particularly with the tapes getting stuck in the machine. If you've ever taken the top off one of these machines, you will see just how complicated they are. Now they are more or less defunct. They kept us entertained for over 30 years until the DVD player took over its popularity. Video film hire shops were everywhere, many of us getting a video film as part of a Christmas present. They were ubiquitous, and we couldn't get enough of them. But as I say, it took a few years before households could afford one. In 1976, to own one would set you back £800. That's £5,500 today. £5,500, eh? Seriously, that would have got you a couple of second-hand cars back in them days, I can tell you. The prices fell sharply and quickly over the years, with more reliable machines and remote control. However, I can remember seeing one in working order on a second-hand market in 2009 for a £5. No one wanted them. Now they are getting popular again, as some movies on VHS never made it to DVD, and those movies are now sought after. People buy the video recorders to digitalise them and flog them. On a popular auction site today, they can vary from £30 to over £100. But be careful when buying them, as the belts get old and they eventually turn into a black paste that makes a real mess. Always ask if the belts have been recently replaced. Now, I did get a valid comment about inflation, and it's worth mentioning that we have pound devaluation in the 70s and other factors that bring price changes apart from inflation, such as CPI, RPI, strikes over the years. So we must realise that these prices I have mentioned are as average as possible, and they are the best guide, as some may have paid different prices and earned very different salaries. So I thank you, PIDS UK, for your feedback. Well, that was a quick visit to our social history when it comes to how we spent our money on time-saving gadgets and entertainment back in the 70s, and how much it cost us. I hope you've enjoyed it and grabbed a few memories in this film. Once again, I do apologise for any errors just like then, and my spelling errors. I am dyslexic, as you probably know by now. And I just want to say thank you so much for your kind comments, and thanks for watching. Till then, bye for now.